Well, I guess I'm moderating, right? So we were fielded this topic, and I chatted with the panelists beforehand. I think just before we get on, so I'm a partner of a VC fund, and I've obviously seen a lot of fintech deals come across my desk. So when I was trying to decompose the question, it was very much, traditional banking, traditional finance is often very much push standardized products by channel or by segment that are one size fits all. And probably what's interesting here is the concept that more, what fintech's been able to unleash is more personalized, more tailored products that really fit sort of specific human personas. So that was my idea, right? And I see a lot coming through, like, homeowners, mortgages is very one size fits all. Now there's lots more abilities, for example, to get, rent to buy to get into the property market, or at end of life, people to get equity release, or embedded finance. You can access products in different areas. So that's kind of where we're coming at it from. So I think where to start would be very interesting is we've got 4 very interesting panelists. You guys all are in the fintech space. I'd love to have some examples of what your company, or introduce yourselves, what your company does, and then some examples of where you think your product or your clients have moved the needle and developed something which is more tailored and individual for individual human-centric finance. So should we go left to right? Yep. Make sense?
I'm Julián Díaz, founder and co-founder and managing director of Unax. And what's Unax? Unax is a European banking as a service platform provider with electronic money institution license. And basically, we are providing a stack of regulated technology based in IBANs, pay-in, payout methods, aggregation, and the rest of the services, basically to create a regulated skeleton who allows our clients to create innovative services. We are operating in the Southern Europe as a regulated company, but also we operate in LATAM. And the reason to operate in LATAM, basically because it's a relevant market, but one of the main challenge is to fostering the unbanked population to allow these guys to provide fintech financial solutions and lending. And for instance, as an example that we are doing in the Mexican market, it's to provide, maybe the open banking, PSD2 in Europe, that basically you collect financial data to make decisions. In the Mexican market, only 50% of the population is banked. That means that for the other 50%, we need to collect alternative data, basically to provide, for instance, to lenders to make decisions and to include in the financial sector this unbanked population.
Great. No, it's a clear example, right? When you've got 50% of the population underbanked, then you need to tailor products for that segment specifically. And Jorge?
Yeah, I'm Jorge González Iglesias from GBOBS, and what we do is we're building an ecosystem of finance that helps people make better financial decisions. We anchor ourselves on the acquisition of the home, so we help somebody understand their financial situation before they want to buy the home, to really understand if it's the right moment to do it, how to do it, and then we take them through the whole process of the home acquisition to then continue helping them with his finance decisions after that, right? So that's basically what we do. And yeah, I mean, you wanted us to mention some example on...
Yeah, I'm just think through. I mean, it's a really... The way when I look at home buying and the traditional way that banks apply mortgage policies, it seems very much one size fits all. You need to borrow, you've got a maximum cap of 5 times your earnings or 4 times your earnings, and it's done. And it just seems to me... And then also, at the end of the life, right? Like equity release, asset prices have gone up, and you have these people where pensioners with no income, but millionaires and property, but they can't release it. So have you got any examples where you think your product or other companies you've seen have provided a more tailored experience fitting to those individual needs rather than the kind of broad brush, one-size-fits-all, large-scale banking rules?
So definitely. I mean, we also, as an ecosystem, we're connected to users, banks, and we're connected to real estate agents, developers, and alternative investment funds. We also have actually a developer loan marketplace. And I mean, that's pure tailor-made. I mean, it's a pretty beautiful example because most banks don't like developer loans anymore because they don't convert well to mortgages. So there's just a very strong gap in the market with the needs of developer loans and the needs of the market to actually build houses, right? Versus the appetite of the banks to give the developer loans, right? So these alternative investment funds are, it was a very opaque market, with very high prices compared to banks, and we're offering, a very strong service to the developer to really understand what is the right financing structure for that.
Yeah.
First a fund, then a bank, or maybe the funds, because funds are becoming much more competitive. So that's, it's definitely very, very tailor-made. And in terms of the acquisition of the home, definitely. It's a process that there hasn't been barely any kind of innovation in decades, and it's a very, very important process in people's lives. And the big issue we have here is that just the process is wrong, right? People fall in love with, they have in their mind that at some point they want to buy a house, but they never really think about it. At some point they fall in love with a house, and it's usually, look, I want to buy a house in this location, so I start speaking with a real estate agent. He shows me different houses, and then you have this hunch about a house, right? You see a house which is different, it connects with you, right? And then all of a sudden, they usually know how to play their cards pretty well, they give you this sense of scarcity, and then you just put yourself, and you see yourself putting a down payment in 2 or 3 days, right? And then you're in the middle of a process of financing for 2 or 3 months, where you really have the feeling that you have to be very grateful for banks to giving you money, right? And on the other hand, there's the bank who actually, you're actually a client for them, that they know that they're gonna keep you for decades, and you're really important for them, right? So if we turn that around and we make people conscientious about their financial KPIs way before, so they understand they actually have a lot of value for banks, and then they go into a process where they can actually see different bank offers, and offer a seamless process where the experience completely changes. It hacks it completely, right? And it's very tailor-made per person, actually.
We've actually got a very successful company in the US doing pre-approval to convert people into cash buyers before they go and buy the house, which is a very clear example. So normally you'd go, you put an offer, and then and especially hopefully probably not going forward, but the last 2-3 years the housing market's been very hot, and so if someone's got 20 offers on their house, they pick the cash buyer. And currently one size fits all mortgages, you have no choice. And what's happening in the US, I don't think it's yet come to Spain, is fintech saying, fine, we'll make you a cash buyer. We'll give you that money up front, that collateral, to then, you can go on the same terms as someone else. And I think that's a really interesting example of tailoring something for the need of some individual. Perhaps, Carlos, tell us about Conto. I know it's more business, right? Yep. So an SME, but they have individual personas as well and individual needs, right?
Definitely. All businesses are known by business owners by definition, which are people that generally they have very little time and they need to focus on their priorities. So Conto really was born with the idea of making this banking easy and making sure that we empower business owners rather than being an administrative hassle, which is what the traditional banking has been for the past years, really. So Conto is the leading neobank in Europe. We have around 250,000 customers all over Europe in the 4 markets where we operate. We raised a very nice Series D early this year, and we are valued now at $5 billion.
Yep.
And really, when we heard about the title of the conference, Human-Centric, for us, we really understand it as customer-centric. It's really our core of our DNA. What we try is when we build new product, we see what's on the state, what banks offer, what other competitors offer, and we always try to think on that plus alpha that makes it a little bit different, a little bit better to make.
Can you give me tangible examples? I'm just trying to think, what is it that was a massive pain historically in a business banking and traditional bank, and then something you've changed which gives customer love?
Customer support. So people generally need to go to the branch, then wait for the specific person that can serve the businesses, and then wait for hours there. And generally, they go out the branch without these problems solved. What we try to do is we obviously don't operate with any branch. We are all online. And what we do is to really squeeze the waiting times for our business owners, and they get served anywhere they are. So it's either chat, either phone, either email, and they receive an answer in 15 minutes, and they get things done, right? So we really try to also cluster all these requests that our customers have in a way that we are more efficient in the way that we can respond to these needs. Another good example would be making transactions or issuing cards for employees. Issuing cards for employees has been a nightmare for any company. Every time you need approval from the CEO, from the CFO, it takes weeks for the card to arrive. We made it in 2 clicks. You can order a virtual card for your employee that needs to make a purchase to attend this fantastic conference, for example. And this makes the business owner, stress-free, and it solves the pain very easily. So really, it's understanding what's the customer interactions with our platform and trying to make those super, super easy and sleek.
And just a final question for me on that side. I'm curious. Is your primary persona more SME or is it more corporate? Because there's very different need cases by segment, right? You've got a one-man band plumber and you've got a multinational corporation. It's not the same banking requirements.
It's not the same at all. And what we see in traditional banking historically have focused is on the B2C aspect, also in the big corporations. But there's this wide landscape that at the end of the day, it's 68% of European economy, which is small business owners, freelancers, and medium-sized business owners. We always say that our sweet spot is between 0 employees, which is the self-employed, and then 50. So we can go beyond that. So we serve companies that are over 100 employees. But generally, for these small business owners that have very clear pains, we can provide the solution that it's super straightforward, super easy for them to operate, and it makes their life easier. And at the end of the day, they can focus on the things that are important, which is running their business, right?
And this is just me learning stuff about Conto, right?
Of course, go ahead.
A lot of the, at least in the UK, a lot of the kind of consumer-focused neobanks have also launched business banking propositions, right? So you've got Starling with a big proposition, Revolut with its business proposition. What do you think you're doing different as a business-first specialist that's even more centric to what the customer needs than the kind of encroachment of the guys who are retail first and then moved into this?
To me, it's focus. So we receive a number of million in this case that we need to allocate, and we need to make sure that our product choices are the right one for our users. So the fact that we are specialized on B2B, it makes us understand better our users, and also within our teams, we all think about B2B. And that makes a huge difference when it comes to customer support, because we don't need anyone switching from, okay, I'm serving a particular now that has an issue with a mortgage, and now I'm serving a business owner that needs this card done for the employee. So it's really about focus and making our investment bets really clear for these business owners. And in a way, these kind of B2C neobanks, they also have a huge or large part of their business base which is freemium, so they don't pay for anything. Our customers, they all pay a monthly fee, and this gives certainty to them that the quality of the service that we will provide is going to be top-notch, because the ones paying are not sponsoring the ones not paying, and that provides a lot of clarity. And for a business owner, really paying €9 a month, it's peanuts. So they rather pay that monthly fee and make sure that they receive a top quality and specialized service. So that's the key differentiation in our case, and that's why we are the leading neobank in Europe for this segment, right? We are not in the UK yet, which is much more competitive, but in the 4 markets where we operate, we are doing pretty good.
Brexit, up. Exactly.
That's it.
No more passporting. Alvaro, I'd love to hear from you. So any examples? Well, first of all, tell me about your company. And I know you work more on the kind of consulting side, or IT side. So any examples either from you or from your clients would be relevant.
Sure. Well, in our case, we are InfoIP. InfoIP is a company created in Croatia in 2006. We have presence in Spain since 2016. In our case, we provide omnichannel platform to help to any kind of customers, in that case, financial institutions, fintechs, traditional banking, to use digital channels to offer digital services to the final user. In our case, actually we are working with many customers in different areas, but in the financial services, when we are talking about human-centric, and especially considering that the digital transformation is going too quickly, we cannot forget that behind of customers we have humans. Probably you know the one initiative from one person that said, I'm old but not idiot. So it means that for the tradition, especially for the traditional banking, we cannot say, hey, Mr. Oldman, since now till the future, you need to use the digital banking immediately. You cannot go to the branch because we are not going to provide you any kind of services. This is the extreme. So for this reason, it's very important to make the proper segmentation about your customers. And in each, depending on the age, you need to offer different digital channels. I mean, for example, for the old people, many banks have put in place WhatsApp as the first step put of contact. Inside of the WhatsApp channel includes one chatbot. In the case that the chatbot cannot answer all the questions, move the conversation to the contact center, and the agent take the ownership of the solution of the problem and try to solve the problem immediately. No? So, for example, this is the journey for the old people, but we need to define different journeys depending on the age. So, in that case, we can help to any kind of customers, in that case, fintechs and traditional banking, to use different channels per age. And the good news is that in terms of how much time we need to implement this kind of channels is extremely quickly. I'm saying probably in 2 weeks we can put WhatsApp answers and conversation or the chatbot in live. So it means that especially for the fintech, it's very important the time to market. Not probably this customer is going to move to another provider. For sure.
No, I think this is something we should probably learn where we sit, right? Because we're all like, tech first, something new, something different. Even though I'm now feeling as I get older, there's some things I don't understand. When I used to run a startup, I never managed to make Snapchat work. Like really, I'm already too old for Snapchat. But I think about my mother, loyal, high LTV banking customer. She was deeply pissed off when they abolished checks in the UK because she paid our cleaner every week by check, no more checkbook. She doesn't know how to use the app. She's never opened the app. And I guess when you think about no disrupt to Conto, if you're brand new and you're basically just attaching those tech-first companies, great. But if you've got a massive legacy customer base, you have to be able to deal with all methods 100%. Of communication and travel. Right? If you just move to modern, it's not going to work. But it's a very interesting point you said about chatbots. We have a very good company in our portfolio, which is called Cognitive, using AI to actually analyze conversations and fully automate it without having to do it on a rules-based level. And it's dramatically changed the ability of a lot of corporates and financial institutions to communicate with customers out of hours in a sophisticated manner. And I think those kind of elements of care are going to come in a lot more going forward. So you can actually access, your financial services provider through multiple touch points at any time, day or night, because it can be automated. On a different note, something at least that's a big buzzword in VC is embedded finance. They're all raising lots of money at very high valuations with quite limited traction at the moment. But the concept is, you can take a financial product through API and embed it into a nearer touch point to the customer. So it can be in a retailer, it can be in a services company, and therefore, you don't have to go to the bank to buy your loan, your insurance, but you buy it perhaps at the point of purchase. I don't know if any of you guys, perhaps you're quite near to it, right? It's banking as a service, but have you guys actually seen any of these use cases in action? And do you believe the hype? Because big fundraisers are happening. I've seen some of the decks, not all of them. It's definitely a thesis-driven investment today rather than necessarily high aggressive growth. Anyone volunteer?
I can comment a bit. I mean, I think there's a brutal change of paradigm going on in general with banking. Traditionally, banks had a lot of branches, positioned physically for your mother, for example, or my mother, or myself, that's what previously. But the thing is, in that case, it was, the whole user experience really based on that door of entrance that happened in that branch. And once you change that, once all the public is massively going to platform-based consumption, it can go directly to the bank, let's say digitally, or to platforms that have multi-product. It's a whole different story, right? I mean, people want to be able to compare things. People want to be able to you know, connect with different platforms. And I mean, what I'm trying to comment here is about the data. Okay, that people want to be able to freely offer their data without a sense that the bank is going to do something complicated with the data. I think that's the big issue that happens with banks. I mean, they have lots of people give the data to the bank that they actually need, but they're not too open to give all their data to banks. And in embedded finance players, what the market is showing for now is that people are more open to open their data, to show their data, and generally, and then from there consume specific products from different financial players, right? So it's also true that banks are changing a lot, that the brands are evolving, but and it's also true that they have this regulatory issue that is just very complex, and sometimes for them it's just very complicated to put the user in the center, right?
It's hard to innovate when you've got all the capital controls, etc.
Exactly.
It's a large bank. No, I get it. It's I think that point you made about data is really interesting, because at least what I see in my job, right, is I've seen a bunch of companies that have taken new data sources and used it to provide a more tailored and personal service. So we looked at a company called Credit Kudos that Apple bought recently, which was going, I mean, credit scoring is quite antiquated in lots of places, right? It's like quite systematic rules about have you paid your mortgage for X number of years, etc. And this was using open banking data. And that open banking data dramatically managed to revolutionize the richness and quality of credit score you could get with a whole new data source. Another one I looked at, also didn't win, was Marshmallow, which is a UK very successful unicorn in insurance, car insurance. And what that was doing was, again, using open banking data and behavioral data on the website to spot low-risk, high-risk customers in motor insurance. And what you found typically was that customers, and actually this started with immigrants, there's no track record, which is predominantly credit history for car insurance. And so as a consequence, you were getting screwed. You turned up from abroad, and you moved to the UK, and you wanted to pay for your car insurance, it was £2,000. Ridiculous, right? Even if you are a very safe driver. What this company did was use predictive analytics based off open banking and also how dodgy you seem filling in your form, and dramatically reduce the premiums. And I think that's a classic example of how you can use new data sources to provide a more tailored product than the one-size-fits-all. In the UK, it was like Admiral. You're an immigrant, no credit history, screw you, £2,000. So, I don't know, have you got any examples from business banking?
Well, actually, this morning we heard about revenue-based finance, which is a new model as well to do credit scoring.
That's very new.
So it's very interesting. We don't do credit or financing directly. We operate with a payment license. But what we do actually is to try to partner up with other players in the space, the best ones, hopefully, in order to offer this to our customers. And revenue-based finance is something we are looking into, and alternative finance in general. And what we try to do ourselves is to have our systems operating in a way that we can share data easily with third parties in order to provide the best experience to our customers. And this takes time, because obviously product roadmaps are super packed, and these kind of integrations need lots of resources. But what we try is to test and learn. So we operate in a very low-touch interactions, like even a redirect, see how much traction this has, and then progressively try to build like better services. As for example, it would be paying the salaries of your employees. We have a partnership with Payfit that they do calculation of the employees. In Spain, we have so many. It's called in Spanish, but it's kind of every kind of business space. Yeah, the payroll stuff. It's super complex to calculate. They do that very well, and actually the payout it gets automatically sent to Konto, and then the transfers go through. And to do that, it's an integration with this partner. We share data. They share data with us, and then we make this process smoothly. So the founder only needs to click once, and everything gets through. So these kind of models, I think, in the future, it's what's going to prevail. And at the end of the day, you need to look for processes that create friction to your users and see how you can mainstream those through data.
But what's interesting there is it's partnership-driven, right? So it's API-based. It's like we can not be best in class for all of these products.
Yep.
We're in the business banking, but actually people want different services around that. We're not going to be able to build it all ourselves. Definitely. So, we'll build API integration for revenue-based financing, or build revenue for payroll.
That's the idea.
Revenue-based finance is interesting. Watch the space, but I'm not sure in 5 years' time there'll be as many of me around because you guys won't need me as much, basically, because you'll go, I could get venture capital and have 25 meetings with guys asking irritating questions, or at least once I've got some revenue, I can get to revenue-based financing and get financed quite nicely, in advance on my revenue base. So I think that's another very, very interesting area. I guess we've got very little time. Have you guys got any last thoughts?
Well, I think we are talking about embedded finance and maybe also neobanking as a top-of-mind application. Yeah. But other new trend that maybe could be interesting to highlight, it's in-house banking, because it's pretty similar, but large corporations would like to do their tailor-made solutions as neobanks for their employees, yeah. But additional banking services, basically to improve their financials, to improve payments and so on. And there is a new trend, because maybe if you have a first-class neobank, the idea, at the end it could be a B2B product or a B2C product. But if you create a tailor-made solutions for large companies, there is another huge opportunity, because they need, at the end, the same first-in-class banking services.
Very fair, actually. I have a very tangible example from my portfolio. So I'm a large investor in a company called Job and Talent here in Spain. Yep. And they have tens and tens of thousands of workers that we are currently paying their payroll to. And the idea now is, okay, well, we've got these tens of thousands of workers. What products can we provide to them? It can be either salary advance, salary wage stream. It can be improving your credit score. It can be, there's a whole host of things you can do around that person. And I think again, it's going to come back to the kind of buy and build point. Will they be building it all themselves, or will they be looking to best-in-class providers? So the APIs, it can be skinned and be a seamless experience from the worker perspective that looks corporate branded, but then that's not their core. They're not going to want to do all that plumbing. And that's where you're going to end up, again, with a rise of embedded finance or banking as a service provider will provide it. And at that point, I've been told to shut up. So over to you.